What could be more terrifying than a deranged serial killer? A serial killer who's intelligent, and even worse, a serial killer who's intelligent and handsome. When all of these elements collide, you get Ted Bundy, one of the most notorious and horrifying murderers ever to walk among us. For over 4 years, Ted Bundy calmly murdered more than 30 women right under the noses of the police, and that number, that's just what he admitted to. Later investigations suggest the real number may have reached into the hundreds. It was as if he became invisible during the manhunt. The sheer cunning and brutality of what he did forced American law enforcement to reevaluate and improve their entire approach to criminal investigation. Ted Bundy is infamous across the globe. In fact, he became an idol for many future killers and even attracted a disturbing number of women with hybristophilia, those obsessed with violent criminals. Today we're diving into the story of Ted Bundy. But this isn't just another video about murders. No, in this one we're going to explore what made Ted Bundy so unique and why he continues to haunt the world's memory. Ted Bundy, whose real name was Theodore Robert Bundy, was born in 1946. He began his killing spree at the age of 27, compared to the Night Stalker. Bundy claimed far more victims with his crimes spanning over 4 years. Using his intelligence, he even managed to escape prison not once but twice. When it comes to victims, the Night Stalker was more unpredictable, attacking the elderly children, men and women alike. But Ted Bundy targeted only one type, young beautiful women, especially high school and college girls. As for brutality, both were cruel and sadistic. But Bundy's methods were even more depraved and disturbing than the Night Stalker's. In terms of how they killed the Night Stalker was chaotic and erratic, while Ted Bundy used charm and intelligence to manipulate his victims. That's why it took authorities over 4 years to finally catch him. At this point, we can clearly see that Ted Bundy was an even more terrifying serial killer than the Night Stalker. Let's analyze what made him truly dangerous. His intelligence. Ted Bundy was a psychopath and a highly intelligent one. He was a master of psychology. As a serial killer, he had to deal with two key targets, his victims and the police. And Ted Bundy excelled at manipulating both. To gain his victims' trust, the killer carefully crafted a clean and respectable image. He often wore well-kept outfits, suits, tennis clothes, even ski gear. He carried bags, balanced stacks of books, and drove a Volkswagen, a car considered cute and popular among women at the time. Nothing about his appearance fits society's image of a murderer. To lower his victim's guard even further, he frequently pretended to be injured. He would show up with his arm in a cast or hobble on crutches. By faking weakness, he made his targets feel safe around him. They'd think, how could someone who's injured possibly hurt me? The killer exploited his victim's kindness. He often wandered around college campuses pretending to be injured, his arm in a cast, struggling to carry a pile of books, walking awkwardly to gain sympathy from his targets. He would ask a young woman to help him carry the books to his cute little beetle car. And the moment she turned her back, he would strike her with a metal rod, load her into the car, and kill her. These women, kind, innocent souls who opened their hearts to help, were the perfect victims. It's heartbreaking to think he preyed on their goodness. This was the clearest sign of his psychopathy. He felt no compassion, no empathy, not even a trace of humanity. With all those manipulative behaviors and his handsome appearance, Ted Bundy easily lured countless unfortunate women into what would become the final ride of their lives. This was a young woman who was lucky, brave, and sharp enough to escape death at the hands of Ted Bundy. She later recounted the chilling encounter that day. While walking through her university campus, Bundy approached her with his arm in a cast, struggling to carry a large stack of books. Right in front of her, he dropped the books and bent down awkwardly to pick them up. She bent down to help. But crucially, she never turned her back to him. Afterwards, he asked if she could help carry the books to his car. She agreed, all while staying alert. As she placed the books in the car, she remained cautious, still not turning her back to him. Just as she was about to leave, she heard a set of keys drop to the ground. He politely asked her to pick them up for him. But something felt off. Her instincts kicked in. Instead of turning her back, she kept facing him. maintained a safe distance, slowly bent down to retrieve the keys, and then walked away at her. When she learned who he truly was, her blood ran cold. She realized she had narrowly escaped death. Had she turned her back for even a few seconds, she might have become another one of Ted Bundy's countless victims. Those were just some of the ways Ted Bundy manipulated the psychology of his victims. But when it came to law enforcement, he was even more cunning. He was practically invisible during the nationwide manhunt. And here's why. In real life, Bundy had a spotless and impressive background. He studied psychology at the University of Washington, where professors praised him as a brilliant student. He later enrolled in law school at the University of Utah. He worked as an assistant director at the Seattle Crime Prevention Commission. He even volunteered at a center that handled missing persons cases, particularly women, and helped plan search operations. Incredibly, he even co-authored a guide for women on how to prevent sexual assault. With credentials like that, not a single officer could imagine that he was the very monster they were looking for. The one brutally murdering women, violating corpses, and doing unspeakable things to their remains, to the police. Someone who could commit such horrifying crimes could never come from a background like his. And so he was never investigated, even when the police had the following information. The police had a sketch of the suspect and published it in the media, and it looked extremely similar to Ted Bundy. The police were informed that the suspect drove a yellow Volkswagen Beetle, pretended to have a broken arm in a cast, and called himself Ted. The police released that information to the media. A co-worker of Ted Bundy saw the sketch, plus the detail about the yellow Beetle and the name Ted, and immediately thought of him. She reported her suspicion to the police, but the police ignored it. Ted Bundy's girlfriend at the time was also suspicious and reported it to the police. She even told them that she found a bag of women's underwear in his house and a bone-cutting knife he always carried along with plaster powder for making casts. However, after a brief investigation, the police still ignored it and concluded that Ted Bundy was not the culprit. Do you think the police were being unreasonable at the time? In fact, the situation was very chaotic. After releasing information to the media, the police received hundreds of calls every day reporting suspicious individuals for investigation. As for someone with a clean background and even involved in politics like Ted, they would put it aside. All of this shows that Ted Bundy was truly a master at understanding psychology. He easily understood his prey and easily deceived the police. In fact, on one occasion, the day after he committed a murder, the crime scene was surrounded by hundreds of police officers. Ted Bundy confidently snuck in, picked up a shoelace from one of the victim's shoes, and successfully disposed of it. He was like a ghost, invisible due to his own confidence. This was the main reason he was able to kill freely for more than 4 years. Catching him was truly a stroke of luck for the police. During a patrol, officers saw Ted driving his Volkswagen around, looking suspiciously at his surroundings, so they pulled him over for inspection. Inside the car, they found a mask, handcuffs, a knife, gloves, pepper spray, and many other suspicious items. At that point, they temporarily detained him and began their investigation. This was truly a moment of fortune for the entire American public at that time. His terrifying nature continued even after he was captured. He used his intelligence to successfully escape from prison twice. In June 1907, he escaped for the first time and remained free for 7 days before being caught again. In the second escape, he managed to purchase a saw while in prison, starved himself to make his body smaller, used the saw to cut a small hole, crawled through the warden's room, changed clothes, and walked right out the front gate like a visitor. He was free for nearly 2 months before being recaptured. During those 2 months on the run, he murdered 6 young women. He craved the feeling of killing and couldn't control himself, even while being a fugitive on the run. The trial of Ted Bundy was the first to ever be broadcast live on television. Knowing that he chose not to hire a lawyer and instead acted as his own attorney so he could move freely in the courtroom without being handcuffed. However, he had no real legal skills, so he lost heavily during the trial and was ultimately sentenced to death by electric chair. Even while in prison, somehow possibly through bribing the guards, he managed to have a child with a woman who became his wife. Ted Bundy died not as a human being, He was fortunate to possess a brilliant mind and the appearance of a handsome man, but inside was a twisted, perverse, arrogant, and bloodthirsty soul. There was no chance for Ted Bundy to ever become a true human being. The longer he lived, the more he dragged humanity into darkness. The number of lives he took is unimaginable. Some of his victims were as young as 8 or 12 years old. He committed the most horrifying acts imaginable on them, even after they were already dead. Meanwhile, most of his victims were kind-hearted, innocent girls who were simply willing to help a stranger like him. He brought unspeakable suffering to those unfortunate girls and their families for no reason at all, other than because he wanted to. I've never supported the death penalty, but in the case of Ted Bundy, I believe it was the most fitting ending. To me, Ted Bundy was not a human being. This is where the video ends. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.